How can the crowdfunding actors converge to initiate a dialogue with the stakeholders and allow the development of crowdfunding? For many of the new actors, new platforms have developed as spaces for convergence and agenda setting. Confidence and security is key to the development of crowd payments, not only for the platforms, but also to increase the rate of successful project campaigns and the amount being raised per project. All actors, platforms, project owners, and investors must offer as much trust and reassurance as possible by using specialized actors and labels and by offering transparency on all subjects. Please welcome on stage Florence de Maupeou, Coordinator Général at Finance Participative France, presenting her case for a coherent approach to crowdfunding, making it easier, more transparent and trustworthy to facilitate citizens' cross-border investments.
Good morning, everybody. I'm very pleased to be here. I'm also a little bit impressed. It's quite funny to hear my name and the name of the association with an English accent. Anyway, I'm Florence de Maupeou, and I'm the General Coordinator of the French crowdfunding association, Financement Participatif France. Here I am on the picture with all my crowdfunding friends, and here in the middle, he's the French President, Emmanuel Macron. At the time of this picture, he was only the French Ministry of Economy and Finance. But let me tell you the story behind that picture and how we end up here. It's about a meta-organization. So back in 2012, three main types of crowdfunding platforms tried to emerge in France. First, the reward and the microcredit platform that developed quite peacefully. Second, the crowd lending platform that can simply not exist. End of 2011, the ACPR, which is a French regulator for banks, forbade a platform called France Clear for infringement on bank monopoly rules. Because at that time in France, if you lend money to an enterprise, you are a banker. And as a banker, you needed a bank agreement, which means lots of constraints, like a capital of amount between 1 and 5.5 million of euro, and so on. So, yeah, crowd lending was not possible. And finally, crowd equity platforms that developed from a gray area characterized by uncertainty. Back then, when you asked people in the street, what is crowdfunding? The answer was, oh, what? Like, we often use the English word crowdfunding in France, and French people are not so fluent in English, so it can make some very funny translation of the word crowdfunding. Perhaps they heard about the big American platform Kickstarter, or they heard about crowdfunding because of Grégoire, who is a French singer, and he became famous because he financed its first single on a platform called My Major Company. Or at best, crowdfunding was limited to a kind of Winnie the Pooh world for very small projects and non-lucrative associations. So we had to do lots of efforts of pedagogy to explain what was crowdfunding. So the platform was a small startup without strong business model, but they shared a common vision, enable finance to be direct and traceable. So in order to be stronger, they decided to merge and to create a common association, Financement Participatif France. Financement Participatif France has the chance to be supported by a big business association called the MEDEF. The MEDEF is the largest entrepreneur network in France, and it sees crowdfunding, and especially crowd equity, as a good alternative and a good opportunity for its member. So it was a good support for the association, and it introduced Financement Participatif France to the regulators at the end of 2012. But it didn't go as we expected. In January 2013, the platforms were invited to a parliamentary committee. The aim was to initiate a dialogue on the specific regulatory needs of the sector and to introduce provisions within the bank law. So the platforms were invited to this parliamentary committee, and all the platforms that were invited attended the meeting. So with lots of platforms around the table, there were no common voice. The platform seems divided, unorganized, and the association Financement Participatif France was not well recognized. And so from the government perspective, the work appeared to be huge, so they didn't want to do anything. So, yeah, it was a failure. But this missed opportunity sent an electroshock to the sector, and we started to shape our association as a meta-organization. Basically, a meta-organization is an association with organizational members, legally autonomous. So it has three main objectives: facilitate interaction between its members, create a collective identity, and lead in collective actions. But creating a meta-organization was not so easy. The principle of a representation was not well accepted by all the platforms, especially when you have to build consensus among competitors. So despite the democratic and collaborative aspect, philosophy of an association, we had to exclude some platforms that didn't meet our objectives and were not productive in the dialogue. We create two clusters. One cluster for platforms with an elected representative for all type of models, reward, lending, and crowd equity, and a cluster for the ecosystem, which gathers banks, lawyers, associations, consultings, and so on, and which have also his elected representative. So these structures gave credibility to the association, and we have undertaken several concrete actions. The writing of the Code of Conduct was the first action of the association. The aim was to engage the platforms on best practices, loyalties, transparency. We organized a national visibility of the association and of crowdfunding by organizing events, including convention in the Ministry of Economy and Finance, as you have seen on the first picture with Emmanuel Macron. So we did 3 of these events, which gathered all regulator and crowdfunding platforms and professionals around the table, and yeah, it's like 700 people in the Ministry of Economy to speak about crowdfunding and where we go. And we also had permanent staff and so on. So this structure gave credibility to the association and by extension to the crowdfunding sector. We participate to an event for entrepreneurs, a national event for entrepreneurs. And the association, our meta-organization, was recognized by its professionalism and its defense of clear objective. We had the support of financial investment advisors, the National Association of Financial Investment Advisors. And during this event, the president, who was François Hollande at this time, picked up on the subject of crowdfunding and announced his willingness to reform the monetary code in order to develop the crowdfunding. So this was the first big step for crowdfunding in France. After this event, Financement Participatif France became part of the Policy network. We were recipients of all the proposals for crowdfunding regulation ahead of time. We had privileged communication with the cabinet of the president. So, yeah, basically we contribute to the writing of the regulation and the implementing act published in October 2014. So the regulation creates two specific statutes for crowdfunding in France. One for crowdlending and another for crowd equity. So yes, the statute broke up the bank monopoly rules and enabled crowdlending in France, which was a big step for a country where there is a monopoly rules, actually. And another statute for crowd equity platforms that was appropriate for the development of this sector. So platforms with one of these statutes can put on their homepage the label with the French Marianne saying that the platform is regulated by the French authorities. So it gave, of course, trust among investors and credibility to the sector. The regulation was a cautious one because the regulators wanted to experience the development of the crowdfunding. So we continue our lobbying to have more flexible rules. So our lobbying, combined with 2 years during which the regulators experienced the development of crowdfunding, has led to an amendment of the regulation. So in October 2016, we improved our regulation to have more flexible rules. Like, for example, if you are a lender, you can lend 2,000 euro per project instead of 1,000 euro for a loan with interest, and 5,000 instead of 4,000 for a loan without interest. On crowd equity platforms, the project owner can raise up to 2.5 million euros instead of 1 million, and more flexible and more financial tools are allowed on these crowd equity platforms. So we did improvement in our regulation by talking with the regulator. In parallel, actually, we worked on this during more than 1 year with the Ministry of Economy, and we launched it just on Monday, Tuesday. So it's quite very new. We launched a label with the Ministry of Ecology for green project finance on crowdfunding platforms. So it's another way to give trust among investors and to reinforce the strength of the sector. This regulation and the work done with the ministry have done credibility to the platform, to the crowdfunding platform, and trust among investors. But at the same time, we now have to face a regulation that applies usually for traditional actors, KYC, payment service directives, and whereas platforms do not have the same resources. So the regulation fails to take into account the specificity of an activity carried through internet platform, digital activity, important number of investors for small amount, individuals amount, and we are now in a kind of regulatory jungles for platforms and investors, which not makes the development of the sector easy. So that's why Financement Participatif France asked for European status, enabling European passports and enabling platforms to work all over Europe, directly applicable with no over-implementation, because it's a problem in France. It's that the regulator is used to over-implement the law and going further than European sector. So we ask for common status enabling crowdfunding to be European and more harmonized. Thank you very much.